Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a breathtaking, shocking revelation from the shadows of modern warfare where the hatred between powers wafts like a poisonous fog. This is your moderator speaking with the voice of the storm leading you through the dark world of deception and destruction. Imagine a cold January 2026 in the middle of a month that sets the world on fire, where Ukraine and Russia are entangled in a merciless duel of revenge and resentment. The Russians with their arrogant, outdated army that fancies itself invincible, and the Ukrainians driven by years of hatred for the aggressor trampling their land. Oh, the hatred is palpable like rusty iron in a wound. Every drone is a dagger thrust into the heart of the enemy, every explosion a cry for retribution. Let's dive into this story, which pumps not just facts, but pure adrenaline with additional greedy details that will take your breath away, like rumors of Russian generals fleeing in panic or secret Ukrainian alliances with Western spies revealing Moscow's weaknesses. The conflict is not just military, it is bloody personal, a fight for survival where the Russian army is exposed as a ridiculous colossus unable to cope with clever tactics. Stay tuned, because this is no dry report. This is a radioactive spectacle that humiliates Russian military power. Imagine what happens when a handful of drones could destroy a Russian fuel depot before air defenses even realize an attack is underway. At 6:01 a.m. in this explosive January 2026, 5 objects launch almost simultaneously from the starting area, rising sharply into the night. Within 6 seconds, they clear 150 meters, accelerating beyond what surveillance drones typically show. The hatred simmers. The Ukrainians, driven by rage over Russian atrocities, see every attack as a chance to humiliate the invader, while the Russians despise the Ukrainians as terrorists challenging their great army. And you know what makes this even more sensational? Insider sources whisper of Russian deserters fleeing before the battle, and of Ukrainian hackers who had infiltrated Russian radar systems months earlier to map out vulnerabilities. A shadow war that kicks Russian arrogance into the dust. Russian sensors react immediately. Radar screens flash as 5 distinct heat signatures appear in tight formation. The threat level jumps to red. The tracking data seems unmistakable: speed near 175 meters per second, maintaining a climb angle of 45 degrees, launch time nearly identical. This is no probing activity, this is an incoming strike. A Panzer S-1 air defense unit positioned near the coast receives the track first. The crew does not wait for higher confirmation. The system searches, locks, and fires within seconds. An interceptor rises sharply, detonating in proximity mode. 1 target disappears. Fragments scatter downward, glowing briefly before vanishing into the sea. The console registers a clean kill. The Panzer S-1 crew marks the engagement as successful. 1 threat eliminated, but the other 4 targets survive. They do not scatter, do not change altitude, and attempt no evasive maneuvers. Instead, they continue to climb in perfect discipline. The fire control computer draws smooth parabolic projections across the display. Every arc points inland. Everything about their movement fits rocket artillery behavior. The system automatically recalculates via the command network. The assessment spreads quickly. This is no longer a drone alert, but a confirmed precision strike scenario. Operators trust the data because it follows every rule they were trained on. What the Panzer S-1 cannot recognize is intent. These targets are not destined to fall, they are waiting for the moment where belief replaces doubt. At 6:03 a.m. with 1 target already destroyed, commanders treat the remaining 4 as confirmed incoming missiles. The Zoo Park radar maintains a solid lock, updating tracks several times per second. The data appears flawless: altitude exceeds 500 meters, speed holds near 175 meters per second, trajectories clean, stable, ballistic. The system calculates impact zones automatically. The threat level escalates to maximum. At 6:04 a.m., a medium-range battery receives fire authorization. 2 interceptors launch in rapid succession, accelerating beyond Mach 4. Guidance lines converge precisely on the predicted intercept point. At approximately 520 meters, all 4 targets perform the same maneuver their climb stop's noses dip. Instead of continuing to rise, they drop sharply, gliding below the radar horizon. One interceptor self-detonates, the other loses guidance and disappears from the display. On the radar screen, 4 solid tracks simply end. No explosions follow, no impacts are recorded. Operators wait for delayed detonations that never come. Silence replaces certainty. The system reclassifies the contacts from ballistic to low-flying movers, expanding the search area. But near the surface, radar clutter obliterates everything. Sea reflections swallow the sky. Somewhere below the detection limit, 4 machines move onward, invisible, unhindered. The hatred escalates. The Russian army, this laughable relic from Soviet times, fails spectacularly, its technology outdated and its soldiers incompetent, while the Ukrainians humiliate the enemy with ingenious cunning. Greedy addition. Reports from the Kremlin speak of Putin's tantrums when he learns of the fiasco and of deserting Russian troops, calling the invincible Panzer a joke, a slap in the face from Muscovite propaganda. At 6:07 a.m., the remaining drones are fully on the attack. They fly low, maintaining 25 meters above the water, advancing at a steady 140 kilometers per hour. No radio emissions, no course corrections. Their guidance systems follow pre-programmed coordinates with mechanical precision. The fuel depot comes into view. Through their forward cameras, the target appears clearly, rows of pale circular oil tanks standing out against the darker ground, still warm from the previous day's storage cycles. The drones adjust their headings by a few degrees, each aimed at a specific tank. The defensive response finally catches up. A point defense system detects the 2 surviving targets at less than 7 kilometers. 2 surface-to-air missiles launch in rapid sequence. One drone is destroyed at 5.5 kilometers, breaking apart before reaching the perimeter. The last drone continues. A second missile follows, closing quickly, but the engagement geometry collapses at low altitude. The Seeker loses lock amidst ground clutter. The missile detonates just short of the target, its fragments tearing through empty air. The drone pushes forward. It rises briefly to 110 meters, clearing the final defensive arc, then dives into a steep plunge. Tracer fire cuts into its wings, ripping off composite panels, but the core remains intact. At 6:13 a.m., the drone impacts. It crashes directly into the upper section of a fuel tank containing about 2,200 cubic meters of refined fuel. The warhead detonates in the vapor space. The tank rips at the seams, releasing a violent fireball that races across the depot. Secondary fires ignite almost immediately. Adjacent tanks vent flames as pressure waves roll outward. Within minutes, the fuel complex is engulfed in fire. At 6:16 a.m., the fire at the fuel depot is already visible on infrared sensors dozens of kilometers away. But in the air defense network, clarity does not follow destruction, it dissolves. Radar stations begin playing back the last 8 minutes of data frame by frame. What they see makes no sense. The initial tracks followed clean ballistic profiles, the intercept attempts were textbook. Yet the final impacts came from targets that, according to the system's earlier logic, should no longer exist. Zoo park operators switch fully to cruise target mode, expanding altitude filters, slowing tracking assumptions. New parameters are entered: minimum speed reduced to 120 kilometers per hour, altitude floor lowered to 10 meters, maneuver tolerance expanded by 300%. The screens fill with noise. Sea clutter overwhelms returns. Wave reflections create false contacts that bloom and collapse every second. Algorithms trained on fast, decisive threats struggle to interpret objects moving slower than some civilian helicopters. What should be simple following a low, stable target becomes computational chaos. At 6:17 a.m., a coastal radar briefly detects a weak return 28 kilometers south of the depot. The contact lasts less than 4 seconds before fading. It is logged, downgraded, and dismissed as environmental interference. Commands argue over classifications. Some systems still label the event as a failed missile strike, others now as a drone attack too late to count. Handovers between radar layers are out of sync by entire minutes. Tracks cannot be reliably correlated. The common air picture breaks down. Fighter units are alerted, then paused. Without solid tracks, no clear intercept vectors can be issued. Fuel calculations, engagement zones, identification protocols no longer fit. Every decision requires confirmation that never fully arrives. What remains undeniable is the result: a defended area was penetrated, a critical logistics node deactivated, and the attack succeeded not through overwhelming force, but by exploiting narrow assumptions buried deep within automated defenses. At 6:22 a.m., the airspace appears quiet again. No active targets, no incoming tracks. Yet the damage on the ground proves the truth. The threat has not disappeared. It just moved in a way the system could never understand. The Russian army. This embarrassing parade of rust and incompetence is exposed here. Its invincible technology fails miserably. Its commanders grope in the dark while Ukrainian geniuses outsmart them with simple tricks. Sensational news. Sources from Moscow report purges in the top brass generals being executed because they were defeated by little drones, a humiliating blow to Putin's regime. At 6:32 a.m., the Air Defense Network hands control back to human judgment. Automation has reached its limit. The fuel depot is burning. The radar image is broken. No system can reliably explain what just got through. To restore situational awareness, the command authorizes a single investigative sortie. An Su-30 takes off with a limited fuel load, tasked with visual confirmation only. No strike mission, no pursuit, just identification. The fighter accelerates to about 420 kilometers per hour, descending into the last uncertain airspace. Almost immediately, the same problems surface. The onboard radar struggles to maintain contact with small objects. Targets under 0.1 square meters of radar cross-section appear briefly, then vanish. Infrared search shows nothing but residual heat from the burning depot below. The sky appears empty. To reduce interference and avoid alerting any surviving drones, the pilot limits electronic emissions. Identification signals are reduced, not deactivated, but no longer continuous. For the pilot, it is routine caution. For the ground network, it creates a gap. From the perspective of a long-range air defense battery, the picture is unsettling: a fast-moving aircraft maneuvering near a recently struck strategic site. Its identification signal is intermittent. Its behavior does not match a planned patrol. Doctrine fills the silence. The engagement system sees no intent. It sees probability. An unidentified aircraft in a high-alert zone carries unacceptable risk. Delay means accepting the possibility that another strike slips through. The calculation takes seconds. 2 surface-to-air missiles are authorized. They launch vertically, accelerating beyond Mach 5 almost immediately. One searches for slow, low targets and becomes irrelevant. The other locks onto the strongest, return the fighter jet. In the cockpit, a warning tone erupts. The pilot turns hard dives and deploys countermeasures, but the missile's closure rate leaves no room for error. It was designed to defeat aircraft using those same defensive techniques tested against the same patterns. Moments later, the aircraft disappears from the common air picture. Radio channels flood with overlapping transmissions. Search and rescue alerts follow. Air defense units are ordered to restrict fire. Fighter jets are told to hold position. In minutes, confidence turns to hesitation. The sky becomes quiet, not because the threat is gone, but because the system no longer dares to decide what it sees. But hold on tight, dear listeners. What do you think about this? Is this the ultimate proof of the incompetence of the Russian army, or has Ukraine shown with its cleverness that hatred and intelligence are invincible? Share your thoughts in the comments. Was this a masterpiece of deception or a humiliating failure for Moscow? Let's discuss, because your opinions make this war come alive. At 6:50 a.m., the airspace over the region appears calm. No active tracks, no incoming alerts. Radar screens show empty skies broken only by environmental noise. On the ground, however, the situation is anything but calm. The fuel depot continues to burn, feeding towering columns of smoke visible from more than 40 kilometers away. Thermal sensors report temperatures exceeding 900 degrees Celsius in the core of the fire. Fire crews cannot approach. Automatic suppression systems failed in the first minute of the explosions. Valves are warped, control lines severed. What once stored over 6,000 cubic meters of fuel is now a chain of uncontrolled fires. Nearby air bases report secondary effects. Fuel reserves fall below minimum operational thresholds within hours. Sortie generation rates collapse. Aircraft remain intact on their ramps, fully armed, fully functional, and effectively useless. The air defense network remains in restrictive mode. Following the misidentification incident, every engagement requires multiple confirmations. Radar handovers slow down. Fire control authority climbs higher up the chain. Systems designed for reaction in seconds now take minutes. The network is not destroyed but forced into caution. This hesitation is the final outcome. No runways are cratered, no hangars targeted, no aircraft struck on the ground, yet operational capability is reduced more effectively than by a direct airstrike. Fuel trucks stand idle, flight schedules are suspended, emergency logistics convoys are rerouted hundreds of kilometers away, buying time but not restoring readiness. The attack is over, but its effects continue to expand, measured not in explosions but in cancelled missions, grounded squadrons, silent radios. This was not a victory through overwhelming force. It was through precision timing and a deep understanding of how modern systems think and how easily they hesitate once that thinking is disrupted. As the smoke finally thins and the radios fall silent, the battlefield tells a different story than the radar ever could. No runway smashed, no aircraft wreckage across the tarmac, no massive airstrike unfolded on screen. And yet the outcome is unmistakable: an entire air defense network forced into hesitation, a critical logistics hub wiped out, aircraft worth tens of millions, grounded not because they were damaged, but because the system that feeds them vanished in minutes. The most expensive machines on the battlefield are rendered irrelevant by a handful of machines that never tried to outrun missiles or overpower defenses. This operation did not defeat technology with superior firepower. It defeated assumptions. The defenses reacted correctly according to their rules. Interceptors launched on time, fighters responded as trained sensors processed data exactly as designed. But modern war does not just punish slow reactions, it punishes rigid thinking. What happened here was not chaos, it was orchestration. Every maneuver exploited how systems categorize threats. Every delay widened a decision gap. Every moment of uncertainty accumulated into paralysis. In the end, the most decisive weapon was not speed, range, or explosive power, but deception. And that raises a question worth asking. If tomorrow's battles are decided not by who fires first, but by who thinks differently, what happens then to armies that still expect their enemies to act predictably? The Russian army. This ridiculous, outdated force is exposed here as a joke, unable to adapt, humiliated by simple drones that kick their superpower status into the dust. Sensational detail. International media mocks Russian losses with caricatures of Putin fleeing from drones and reports of billion-dollar losses, bringing the regime to the brink of collapse. So now it's your turn, my loyal listeners. If you were designing the next generation of defense systems, what would you change first? More firepower or fewer assumptions? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is the Russian army finally exposed as a